Good afternoon, all you Port Susan Camping Club members. This is your Board of Directors meeting at 5 o'clock. This meeting will probably be foreshortened today because we have an executive session scheduled at 6 o'clock to hear an appeal for a person who was permanently banned from the park. So we will go through our regular meeting, and then at 6 o'clock sharp, that'll be a hard stop, we'll stop the meeting and adjourn and then go to the executive session. That having been said, will the board secretary read well, I'm calling the board to order. Now, please call the roll, Terry.
Jenny Ramos.
Present.
Deb Ackman.
Present.
Bill Elder.
Here.
Dean Tucker.
Here.
Scott Murphy.
Scott's online.
Tara Riley. Here. Donnie White.
Absent.
Nancy Phillips.
Here. Here's Donnie.
Donnie's
Oh, sorry, I called you.
Donnie's here.
And Bill Brenbach.
Here.
I'll answer twice.
Microphone all ready
Hi,
for
Donnie.
you.
So everybody is here, and welcome to everybody. Let's move on and talk about the minutes from the prior meeting. Did everybody read them? Of course you did. Any changes that you might recommend? I need a motion to approve.
I move we approve the minutes as written.
Do I hear a second? Okay, Nancy moves and Dean seconds. All those, any discussion?
I just have a question because I don't remember reading, but did we include in the minutes that we televised it and how many were actually on the screen with us?
I don't think that was specifically in the minutes, was it? I don't think that was specifically in the minutes,
Yeah.
No, I don't know.
but that would have been a good addition. You're absolutely right.
Did you hear that, Terry?
Go back and put it in last two.
Communication is always a problem when we're doing this kind of meeting, so forgive us if we miss something. Let's move on. As president, I have no remarks at this time, except that our meeting last time was a bit unusual, but it won't be that way again, I hope. Now, Treasurer's report, Dean, do you have anything to add?
No, accounting is out on vacation.
Oh, Vanita is on vacation, sunning herself in the beautiful tropics somewhere. Okay. Report from the park manager. Pat?
So I'll go through this sort of fast. The COVID status for the reservation and for the park, it continues to improve. We are at 0 cases active and 0 cases that are hospitalized. There are 5 people who are in isolation on the reservation, not in the park. Today we officially moved in the state to phase 3. I'm doing a little bit of research to see how that impacts the reservation, and then we'll be making some adjustments accordingly. We've found a structural engineer who's going to come out and review Club 50. And he's supposed to be in on March 31st. I'm anxiously looking forward to that. That should start giving us some opinions about where we can go with some of the problems that we've experienced at the club. I'll move on to the PPP loan. Our first loan is still in the last stage of forgiveness. We have not heard from them, but we have heard on the second loan offering, they have asked us to reapply. So as soon as Vanita gets back, we'll be at that. I'm not sure what that means, but I take that as a good thing, not a bad thing, because there was a lot of restrictions that have been placed on the second go-around. The upcoming board elections, when I get done here, Jacob will review electronic voting, and I'll give it to him shortly. He has a couple items. On the S2 project, we had a meeting with Omnicon, and it went very well. We find that everybody's on the same page. Omnicon and Long, the S2 provider, and if you all recall, this is about the gate carding system, had a meeting, and they are together and both agreeing that this can move forward. So that we brought up the 3-hour pass system last time. I'm going to leave that for a later discussion, but it will be part of it, and they can incorporate that.
Terrell, you had a question? You had a question, Terrell? Okay.
On the grid project, we had questions about moving into 50 amp and fiber optic service. We had a very good meeting with Salish this past week, and we now are much more informed on where the project lies in terms of fiber optics and how we can move forward in starting to establish the pricing and an offering on upgrades of 50 amps for anybody who might be interested. So we're starting that project. We have a good communication link going now, and they have invited Jacob to discuss with their engineers how the whole process works. And of course, that's a language that is foreign to me, so it makes us more comfortable, though, that we are all sort of on the same page working in the right direction. On the storage lots, I'd just like to report that we are about to, we have revamped storage lot 1. We'll be revamping storage lot 5 shortly, and then moving into 3, we'll start offering storage lots again in the very near future. We've made, we're making plans for dumpster days, and in May, it'll probably be like the third weekend in May. We don't have a date yet, but we're starting to plan that, and we'll announce it when that's all together. It's what I have on business, though, you know, on reports, Bill. I have some motion items. So, as you know, when park models come into the park, they have to be inspected, and the sites have to have a 1,000-gallon tank. And so the rule is not written exactly like that. What it is that somehow there's an accommodation for that. Trailers are not required to have a 1,000-gallon tank because they have holding tanks. Park models do not. They have direct flush toilets. We have begun to understand that they also build a park trailer. It is a park model, but it is built more like a trailer, and typically has an RV flush toilet with holding tanks and a water tank. But they don't all have that. So the motion is basically to include park trailers into that inspection requirement that we have now on park models. And so I didn't write a motion, and we maybe can table this till the next meeting where we have a written motion, but essentially it's designed to take in park trailers in the same inspection concept, so that if they should happen to come in without a holding tank, that then the site will be required to have a 1,000-gallon tank. So are there any comments on that?
Makes sense.
Okay, so I'll send out to everybody, you know, through Deb, what the proposed is. You guys can do it just online.
And I think it's important to point out that if you sell a park model, on a site and it doesn't have a 1,000-gallon tank, it needs to have one.
Yes. No.
No.
Not the case.
Good, I wanted clarification on that. Okay, so what is the rule on that?
No, the rule is,
Go ahead, Deb.
the rule is, okay, I have one on Rainbow. Oh, microphone. We have a park model on Rainbow that we bought the membership for, I think, in 2012, 2013.
Right,
And when we, bought the membership, we had to pay to have the drain field extended. It has a 300-gallon, okay? But that's been there since 1996. Now, should that fail, then we have to go to a larger tank. But no, those have been grandfathered.
That's right.
Those have been grandfathered. Now, conversely, I have one on Cascara that we brought in. We had already had the 1,000-gallon put in, and we went through the proper permits and stuff, and that has 1,000, but to me, this is just my little opinion, and I'll go along with, kind of with what Pat was saying. If you have a holding tank, it's like a regular fifth wheel or trailer or something, because you have your holding tank and you've got your, you don't have a real toilet.
right.
You should be allowed to keep it the way it is. Because, if you go down that, but if it's a permanent toilet, yeah, then they probably would have to.
Okay, but let's clarify. If you own a park model trailer and it has a 300-gallon septic system, when you go to sell that, do you have to have a 1,000-gallon?
No. Only if you have a real toilet.
Okay, I want to,
No, you do not.
okay, just so we're clear on that, and so we don't give the wrong advice to our members.
It's currently only as you bring in a new use.
Okay, good. Sorry, Pat.
No problem. I would like to add one other
No,
thing.
I have a comment, though.
Go ahead, Terrell.
So, park trailers are not park models. So why are we doing a motion for that?
What we found is that some of the park trailers are built without holding tanks. They have a direct flush toilet. And that's what inspired the,
Then it's not a park model.
well,
It's not a park trailer. Park trailers have holding tanks.
they're supposed to, correct. But some of the park trailers don't have. They've been built without them.
Then it's a park model.
Well, the park model and a park trailer are built differently.
Scott, did you have something?
Yeah, I know. I don't understand why we're managing that.
So my understanding is that the reason that we went to the 1,000-gallon tank on park models is because they had direct flush toilets and no holding tanks. And there are park trailers that are apparently built without holding tanks and have direct flush toilets, which makes them in the same category as the park model, which was why we wrote the rule. So what we're saying is that if for
Well, they're park model. They're not park trailers. We're not, are we really gonna get into the business of defining recreational vehicles?
so the rules, it talks about being adequate
I'll get to you, Scott.
for holding tanks or being adequate capacity the septic system. And the reason the rule was written was because park models didn't have holding tanks. So we're not getting in the business of defining the trailers. What we're doing is getting in the business of defining whether or not you have a holding tank.
Scotty?
Yes, my understanding is that a park model is, it's designed the same as a mobile home, set up the same way, and the tag on it, the inspection tag from Department of L&I is different than it is for an RV.
So the question came up, Scott, when some of them were built without holding tanks and have direct flush toilets. In other words, you could order it that way.
Or they've altered
And
it.
they were park
They've
owners.
altered it probably.
Then that would become a park model for us.
That's why they want the rule to look like that. This came out of DMT.
How many of these instances do we have, do you know?
To my knowledge, none.
Terrell?
So I'm confused. What is the point of this?
I didn't.
Nancy?
You know, back when this originally started, there was also the argument that as a park model comes in and there'll be more people staying at the site, that we need to look at water usage. And that's what I remember being the important issue here. It had nothing to do with whether you had a regular toilet or a toilet for an RV. It had to do with water usage capacity, and that we needed to be doing our job to make sure that we were not polluting the lake. If I'm wrong, correct me, but that's what I recall.
So,
Terrell?
So I would bring up the topic, nobody seems to be concerned about laundry facilities in sites. If we're concerned about water, then we don't seem to care that people tend to have laundry facilities at one site and not the other.
I think we used to care. I don't believe active laundry in our RVs was ever officially authorized, was it? Am I mistaken on that? I don't think it was ever officially authorized. In fact, there were rules at one time. I've got them in the old books
Yeah,
from
but
Calvin.
I,
Go ahead, Deb.
but I thought the rule was, that you can't have them in an addition, a washer and dryer. Because, okay, when we looked at my mother-in-law's first lot, okay, there was a washer and dryer in the shed. And we said, no, get that
Absolutely.
out of here, because that's not legal, because they had it going where it shouldn't have gone.
Right.
And so, that was my understanding.
And that's correct. What
But I
I'm
do know
saying-
that with my park model came with a washer and dryer in it. It's just the way it came.
What I was trying to say is the park
It's
model,
it's not the point.
yeah.
The point I'm making is, if we're gonna be concerned about water usage, we don't seem to worry about laundry.
No,
I
we
just
do.
don't know why we're getting involved in the definition between the two RVs.
I think this was a question from DMT,
so
and Pat's bringing it.
So I have the motion number, and the
Got it.
motion, as my recollection is, in looking at the motion, it was written not about water usage, but about septic. And, and the direct flush toilets. And so it was, I think, in just some informal discussions I've had, that what was talked about is that trailers, RVs have holding tanks. They don't have direct flush toilets, and they have the capability to work around issues. And it was why this was applied to park models. So it came up that there is a possibility that park trailers could be built the same as a park model and not have a holding tank. So the holding tank is the issue more than anything else. And so why don't we do this? I have the motion number. Let me dig it out. I'll do a little research. I'll make an outline, and I'll send it out to all of you. And then we can discuss this.
Donnie, did you want to say something?
No, I was wondering why we were going through this issue.
Closer.
When you move in
No, we
here,
can't hear you.
when you move in here, your septic and your toilet uses seem to come into the factor of where we live. I agree that, you could check it out, but I think we should not even be here at this point on that issue.
So-
Okay, Pat, you're going to take this back, and
Let me research it, and
Yeah, that's good.
I'll come
Since-
back with a.
Thank you.
Pat, since you indicated that there weren't any instances of this as yet, it may be precipitous to go into it ahead of time. So think about it and then bring it back to us. Okay?
I don't want to waste a lot
Yeah.
of time here, but you know, in the 60s and 70s, RVs were made with house toilets in them. And we got to remember that too, because we got a whole zoo of trailers in here that age. I own 2 of them. And they have regular house toilets in them. They came that way. Certified with the state. So that's just my piece of it.
But yours are park models. Yours are older park models.
I guess.
Yeah, yours are park models. So that's the
Maybe.
difference.
One of them is. One of them is. The other isn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, Pat, go ahead.
So I got a report from Glenn about Family Center. Things are coming on along real well. There are some contractor delays, surprise, surprise, door manufacturer delays. We are ordering pool tables and other things and some cleanup. And so he is anticipating that they will close the Port Susan store in the adult center on May 1st and reopen in the family center on May 8th. That's the plan at this point in time. If there's any change to that, then we'll announce that there'll be a grand opening with door prizes and things for the kids and for the adults. Adult beverages consisting of Diet Coke and Diet Pepsi.
We'll need a lot of communication because it sounds like the store is going to be closed for a week.
For a week, yes.
Yeah, it needs a lot of
We need to be ready.
communication. All right. Go ahead.
With that, I'd turn it over to Jacob to discuss the board member tablets that we talked about last time and electronic voting.
Okay, I guess we can start with the board tablets. So in looking at this, I was trying to find a solution to where it doesn't require much technical involvement. The papers that you all should have on the first page, we would be looking at 8 tablets. Each and every tablet is $120 running Android. They come with a detachable keyboard, and that's the price for each and every tablet. The system that we'll be using for storing the files would be Dropbox Business, which gives us the capabilities of managing our documents completely on the cloud. You're able to scan documents up. You're also able to invite people to documents, and we can pretty much put anything that has to do with the board of directors or anything else onto the Dropbox environment. We get a 30% discount, and that will cost us $1,344 annually. Yes?
Can I make one correction? It should say 9, because there's 9 board members. So
There's 9?
9 tablets, so change it just a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
You need to talk to the
No, we can't hear you.
Deb, you're not talking into the microphone.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying we need to have 9, not 8, that's all.
Okay, so that would increase it, only by like $120 for the tablet and, a few for the Dropbox for business accounts. So each and every device would be managed by a device manager. So as you travel throughout the park or any issues come up on the device, I'm able to remotely connect into it and make repairs or fixes. Also, if it exchanges from one board member to another, it's just modifying some settings on my end, and then you just toss it off to the next board member. If the tablet ever goes missing, we're able to remotely wipe it and have complete access for it. Different policies, so that way, people can't use it for YouTube, and you'd strictly just be using it to access Dropbox.
Each member will have a separate password.
Correct. So the only person that should be using the tablet is the board member it's assigned to, and the only business that will be allowed to be conducted on it is board business. The design and the price of the tablet was based around only doing file management. So we're looking at $1,612 per year, and then a initial equipment cost of $960, which brings us to a project cost of $2,572.
In the first year.
Correct. But then it would be $1,612 every year after.
Now, we don't need a motion on this, but I'd like to get a sense from the board as to whether we should go ahead with it or not. Anybody against it? I mean, Deb, did you have something you wanted to say?
I think, you know, like with the board notebooks and stuff that we get every year, all that could be put on there, and then we don't have to do that every year. It'll be there. And Pat won't go through a lot of paperwork, bringing stuff to us, or Bill, you know, in our meetings, because it will all be there. We could basically do it paperless, which would be really easy.
We are coming into the 21st
Yeah.
century.
Hallelujah.
Now, our official dissenter is shaking his head. Bill, do you have a comment?
No comment.
Oh, that's too bad. I was hoping for something. Okay. Anybody that doesn't want us to move forward on this? Nobody at home? Everybody excited? I am.
I am.
Are we ready? Okay. Pat, you got the go-ahead.
Question,
What, Scott?
I just want, will we have the capability at these meetings that we're doing now remotely like this to scan and documents so that somebody may bring in and we can read them?
The answer is yes.
Excellent.
Very good.
Fantastic.
By the way, the reason why I didn't call for a motion on this is because Pat has the authority to do this for anything under $5,000. We've given him that authority as we, as a board, have given every other park manager too. So we just wanted to get a sense for what what we felt, and then we're asking him to move ahead with alacrity.
Alacrity.
And he has to look that up, so that's okay. Go ahead, Pat.
Did you want me to move on to the next item?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jacob.
So the next item is for the Pscc election. On the schedule page that outlines basically how the election will be scheduled. The company that, we've looked at 3 different companies, and the only one that we've been able to find that can be able to support electronic voting, along with also handling paper mail and various other like kiosk voting, was Election Buddy. They are located in Ontario, Canada. Let's see. Sorry, got something going on with the stream real quick. I'm trying to fix it. Okay, that goes there.
Terrell, go ahead while Jacob is looking for stuff.
Okay, we're back online. Oh, did you need to say something, Terrell?
Can't hear
Why
you.
are we,
There, okay.
changing who would like it?
So in an effort to try to enhance the availability of voting, one of the ideas that's been tossed around, I guess, for quite a few years is doing electronic voting. But
Oh, wait, no, wait. You're not understanding my question. Why are we changing the company we went with last year?
company, I thought it was all volunteer work last year.
Deb, use your microphone.
No, probably because that didn't allow, because the way we did it last year was people would turn in their ballots, the ballots were sent out the day of the election to wherever it was in New York, and then they would scan them in their little machine, and then they sent us the results, and then they turned around and mailed back the results. It was brought up that some people wanted the ability for the ones who couldn't get online to be able to have paper ballots in an effort to increase the number of people voting, and I think that's why they're looking at what they're looking at.
So,
So my understanding was that we were gonna do both, and we were going to print out the electric ballots, the electronic ones, and mail them in.
so I can kind of explain the entire process in this proposal. Basically, we are giving up the entire election process. We are not touching a single bit of any vote to ensure that the election is done right. And they also, part of the service includes that they will have a CPA certify the election results with them. They will also provide a voter assistance phone line. So if somebody has any complaints about not receiving a ballot, they will call them, not us. And then we'll have a dedicated in-house rep. And then basically, we don't deal with any of the ballots to ensure that, you know, there isn't any concerns about ballots being tampered with.
So basically, you're saying that this company will send out electronically a ballot to each site?
Correct. So, well, so at the start, April 6th, digital election ballot information will be sent. And then they will only send electronic ballots at that point. And then April 20th, those that have not done the electronic vote will then be sent a physical ballot with the exemption of Canadians, because there's an issue with ensuring that they receive the mail-in ballot in time. So Canadians will only receive a electronic vote. And then, yes, Terrell?
Go ahead, Terrell.
Why are we not offering both options?
Well, we are
My understanding was we weren't gonna ditch the paper ones.
So we are doing electronic voting at the start in this proposal because the cost to send out mail-out ballots is $2 per mail-out ballot. So we wouldn't be sending them out anyways until that point. So sending out the electronic ballots earlier gives people the opportunity to not have to use paper, to where before we would be wasting paper by sending out all of these paper ballots, to where at this point with this system, we could eliminate that. Yeah.
Go ahead, Terrell.
I just don't know that that's the best thing for our community.
Well, it's optional.
My understanding was we were gonna do both.
Correct, and if people
Like
don't
we've
want to
done in
do,
the past.
if people don't want to do the electronic ballot, they don't have to. They would just receive the paper ballot. We're also offering the ability for somebody to go to the mail center and then do their ballot from a kiosk. So that would be through the same system.
My concern is this is too much of a shift for this community.
Well, people would still receive the mail ballot if they didn't do either of those options. It's providing more accessibility to an election. So,
It just seems like a big shift for our community, which I'm concerned about.
well, when are we supposed to do the shift then?
Well, my understanding, when we decided this, that we would do both parallel,
Correct, and this would do both.
which we've done in the past, and it was successful.
And this one would be both. It's just if somebody does the electronic ballot, they will not receive a mail ballot. They would receive a mail ballot if they don't do the electronic voting.
In the past, we did it parallel.
But that's a complete waste of paper and
and
money.
it-
Why send them
I'm
two?
concerned about a big shift for our community. We do these big changes and it upsets everybody.
So I guess my question is, if somebody doesn't do an electronic ballot, like you're saying you've done in the past in a hybrid system, will they receive a paper ballot? Yes, be no different. So it's no different than the way you've done it in the past.
Okay, so I'm not understanding. My understanding is the paper's gonna come out later.
No, it'd be sent out about the same time as when it would normally be sent out. It's just we're gonna allow electronic voting before that date. So you would have normally had to stuff the envelopes and then have them sent out by a certain time. This would give us the ability to start electronic voting early, and then when you would normally send out the paper ballots, we'd be sending out the paper ballots just to those people that haven't electronically voted.
And there would be fewer
Right.
ballots sent out. Scott, you had a question?
Yes, I was wondering, is it possible to send out information to, especially the Canadians, that they can request electronic only, and for the people that, you know, that are computer savvy, that they can do this stuff, that they would have the ability to request the electronic only and not worry about the mail-in.
The problem with Canadian mail right now is that we cannot guarantee that they will receive the ballot in a timely manner. So, and this is, you know, most of the companies aren't even wanting to do mail ballots at all. And so the only way that we could effectively send a Canadian a ballot is electronically. Otherwise, they'll receive it too late, and that's that. Now, we will be sending them a postcard with instructions, and they would be receiving.
That's okay, that's my question, is that they need to get the information now, so that they would be able to,
Correct. So.
That's a good point.
get their electronic ballot.
On our
Good
schedule,
point, Scott.
March 30th, that would be the due date for mailing postcard instructions to Canadian members.
Okay.
So, basically, the kiosk at the mail center is the other component. If somebody doesn't want to do electronic voting, and then we get very close to when the ballots are closing, they can easily just go into the mail center, go up to the kiosk, do their casting of the ballot. This company, they also offer phone-based ballots, so you can call in, but it costs extra money. So I don't know whether or not we want to go that route because it would increase the cost. And then basically May 29th
Hold
at
it,
10
Bill.
a.m. voting would close. May 30th to June 1st, between that, the results would be received with a CPA certification.
That's a little
Okay.
late, though.
Bill, you had a question or comment?
With your computer down at the mailroom.
Sorry?
With your computer set up at the mailroom, are you gonna lock that up every night?
Well, they're locked up to the wall, just like our
Well, I
signs
mean,
are.
nobody can get in there. Don't forget that building's open
Yeah.
24 hours a day.
So the kiosk setups that are in the proposal on the next page, it has a picture of the kiosk itself. They would have anti-theft locks on the back of the kiosk things that are on there. And they'd be very inexpensive. So the monitors are super cheap, and they're with our small devices that we use for the mail center. So, you know, if somebody was to steal it, it's not a extremely expensive item, but they will be locked down.
Donnie, talk into the microphone if you have a comment.
So we'd have to pay for that?
You're talking like $50 potentially, but, you know, if someone's stealing something, you know, I believe we have cameras, I'll have to check on that, but they'll be locked down, no different than, you know, someone going in any other location and stealing something.
But even if somebody steals them, what can they do with them?
Yeah, they wouldn't be able to do anything with them.
All right, Bill and then Nancy.
You're saying that they can't get into the computer?
No, it's all locked down with kiosk mode. So,
And your little cheap lockdowns, probably everybody knows how to break them.
someone could break a window right now in any of our buildings
That's
and
not
steal
the
something.
point.
So, Bill, the votes don't live in that computer. Once you enter your vote, it's transmitted to the election
I'm just
company.
worried somebody getting in there making votes.
They can't.
No.
They have to have,
Say
just,
they can't.
no, they
So-
can't. That's what makes the system secure.
It's a cloud-based system and
It
the
has nothing to
person
do with
who's
the
getting
computer,
vote-
it's
They tell
location.
that everywhere, but people get broken in.
Well,
I'm
each,
just pointing out.
Yeah,
each
we're-
elector gets a unique number. They enter that number. Once that number's entered, nobody can use that number again.
Now, are you gonna, are
Wait,
you,
Nancy first.
Okay, so the first thing that we really ought to be looking at, on top of making elections easier for everybody to access, is the cost here. We're saving over $3,000 doing it this way and increasing access to our membership with a small education curve. I think this is the most responsible way for us to go, and we will continue to save money every year, which is what our membership demands that we do. Plus, elections for 44 years have been a nightmare in here. This is the immediate fix.
Thank you,
I'm
Nan-
all for it.
Thank you, Nancy. Deb?
so now, can I ask you one thing, Jacob?
Sure.
Will it be set up, I mean, okay, I have 2 lots. Will we
Nicely
be
done.
able to get 2 votes on that still too? Do you, because that's the way it's always been.
So it's per site membership.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Jacob, you can go ahead.
Yep, so on the cost page, it goes over all of the costs with the licensing. The estimated totals with 1,500 mail ballots is 4,835, and then it has all the information for like the voting kiosk. We can get that number down by encouraging more people to electronically vote. With our survey, you know, we've only had one person do the phone-in the phone-in survey stuff, and the rest of everybody else has done the web-based survey. So, you know, we have that kind of budgeted in here to see how many they use. I'm kind of, you know, hoping that it's going to be a very low number of mailed ballots, and then as we progress into the future, that number just gets smaller and smaller, because at some points, you know, it's really, there's no reason to be using paper for this. It's,
Jacob, it's going to, forgive me if I sound like Don Hatch, who always says this, but it's going to be a communications issue. And the more communications, the better.
Yes.
Bill?
Yes, go ahead.
Can I add one other thing? We've tried one of our first sort of electronic things with this survey that's out with the members right now. And we're approaching 400 responses electronically. And we've had complaints that people wanted to have other means to respond. And so we provided it, put it out there, and to date, we've had 1 response as a result of that.
Terrell?
Terrell, you're muted.
Terrell? Go ahead.
Hold on. Hold on, you're, where is,
We are having a communications problem even as we speak.
okay, Terrell, you're,
So,
there you go.
all right, so you guys, I assume, have documents that we don't have access to.
Well, if you had the tablet, you would have had them.
I don't wanna hear about the tablet, 'cause the tablet's not here yet.
Yes.
But what I would like is these documents to be provided to us, we can review.
So, Terry, I think should be able to get those sent to you, so you can see them. Are you able to get those sent over to them?
Right now.
Okay. So, you know, something to keep in mind is, you know, we're getting pretty close to the election. March 30th
Nance,
is
if you're
when we
gonna
need
go
to
get
start
coffee,
sending
I'd
out
like some.
postcard instructions.
I'm sorry, Jacob, I was asking Nancy to get me some coffee while she was up.
Yeah, so, you know, the system itself in terms of its capabilities, people that are used to mail ballots would be receiving the mail ballots no differently. The enhancement that we're drastically changing, the people that don't care about technology probably won't even notice. The people that will notice are the ones who want to use less paper and would rather have an option that they could, you know, fill out from home or fill out, you know, if they're off-site in California somewhere and can't easily get to a mailbox. And this just starts getting us in the direction of using less paper, reducing our overall operational costs, but still keeping in mind that, yes, there are people who won't use the electronic options, and that is covered in this platform.
Okay.
If you compare this,
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions for Jacob?
Yeah, could I add one other thing?
Pat wants to add something.
Jacob, would it be possible that we make an offering that a group, board members or employees, could go out and assist anybody in the park who needs help to do an electronic vote?
Correct, but we do have to be cautious that because we have a third-party company that would be managing the votes and having a CPA involved, that we don't want to create what we're trying to avoid is a conflict of interest. And the purpose of the kiosk at the mail center would be to have potentially a volunteer there to help, not a specific board member. So we could have a volunteer on a specific day, maybe like the few days before the election, over by the kiosk, and assist people doing votes that way. Right, but that would be the easiest way to go about it.
We could make that area sort of private,
Yes.
where the kiosk is.
We have these cool black drapes that, you know, we can turn into a voting booth if we wanted to. And then get a vote sticker.
Back to the future. All right. Any other questions for Jacob about this? Oh, I'm sorry. Terrell?
How are we going to communicate this to the membership so they understand?
So, in addition to our vast communication methods on Pscc alerts, the company also does individual notifications, notifying people what their voting code is. The Canadian members would be receiving postcards. Then we would use like mooring lines, digital signs, word of mouth, to be informed about the process.
How are we going to connect with our campers, our weekenders, who don't see the signs, they don't get the mooring lines?
So if they don't see anything that is posted out on the many different communication channels that I post on right now, then they would be receiving a mail ballot to
me a shot at it.
whatever address that they have on the account that they would have normally received. And then they would
I
do
wanna
their
answer
ballot
that
like they would have normally done during other elections.
Pat, go ahead.
So, also, like that little announcement I put in this coming billing cycle, we'll put in a sleeve, a piece in the billing cycle that will tell them to look for this information. So that goes to every single member. So that would be a first step. And if necessary, we can mail cards to everybody, a postcard to everybody, if that's going to help in the process, if we're not getting the results that we're looking for.
I think we've all got to remember, though, that no matter how hard we try to communicate out to the membership, there will always be people who will not respond by paying any attention to any communication we give them. And so, and this is true anywhere you go, anywhere. All right. Pat, you want to do anything else? We've got to move along with committee reports.
So the issue here is that we're rapidly coming up to this voting cycle, and it has been immensely difficult to find somebody to even talk to us about a hybrid system that would handle both mail and electronic voting. And so this is something that, you know, we need an approval on shortly in order to get, you know, start the process by the end of the month.
Like we're looking at March 30th for us needing to have the instructions set and start sending postcards to the Canadians, because the Canadian border right now, it's very difficult to get things to them on time.
Okay, so we need a motion tonight to move ahead with the electronic voting that Jacob has discussed tonight. Do we have would somebody make that motion, please? Wait,
Could I ask what the cost, did I miss the costing?
$4,835. That includes the licensing, the kiosk, and also the $1,500 estimated budgeted mailed ballots.
For a total of
4,835,
4,835.
correct. If there were no mail-out ballots, it would be only about 1,500.
All right, Bill, wait a minute. Can we have the motion, then we'll discuss it when the motion is on the...
About your motion.
Okay, go ahead.
When do the people start voting?
So, on the paper,
On the computer?
correct, so that would be April 6th. And then,
That's not very much time,
no, they would start.
because we have the write-in people we're still waiting on. And they got to, what, 30 March?
But they have till,
They have the 30 March, and if we get them in there, we'll start the campaign. Right now, nobody's campaigning, because we're waiting on that information. And that gives them 6 days.
Okay, but they're going to be in by the 30th.
I understand that, Bill, but you're starting on the 6th. And it doesn't give those people trying to campaign very much time.
Understood, but we're up against the wall here.
I mean, the only other way,
Wait,
Wait a minute, Terrell. Nancy, then Deb.
You know, the bottom line comes down to every member is an adult. We have personal choice and personal responsibility. Is there anyone here who's surprised we're coming up on an election? I hate to sound like a hard nose, but come on, let's be realistic. We make choices, we take responsibility for those decisions, period. And some people are not gonna vote. If we go back and track what's happened in the past, we know that several hundred people, over 1,000 people don't vote. So, and that's accurate, by the way. What do you guys wanna do? We can't stay where we are, we must move forward. I'm sorry, I know I'm always,
No, that's fine. Deb?
I mean, and I know there was one time we did online voting, and I know I went on and voted online for my lots, and I think that was done in-house.
yeah,
Yeah. But there were, some people didn't like it being in-house because they questioned the integrity of the in-house voting. So, I mean, they even
Okay.
questioned, and last year, as much as we really tried, they questioned that too. And here we sent everything out the day of the election. So,
yeah.
I don't know.
We need to have a motion on the floor before we have any more discussion. Do I have a motion on the floor? Dean?
I make a motion to move forward with the hybrid voting as described by Jacob.
And there's a second from Jenny. Okay, now, discussion. Terrell, one more time.
well, I disagree with Nancy. I think we've got a good size part of our park that it doesn't keep track of these dates, and we have to be very clear that we're letting them know when they're supposed to vote and not supposed to vote.
And we are.
And I
Okay,
do agree with Bill E. I agree with Bill E. We don't even know when the campaigning's gonna be online. We
So-
don't have any dates.
All of the information that, for like the videos and the statements, those are all online right now.
That's not,
But we're not, when are we gonna do the campaigning questions?
They do one on Facebook. I think that's what she's referencing.
yes,
So when
but
are
there's
they
no
gonna do the-
set date.
Why don't they have a set date?
April 1st.
strangely enough.
Could they do when is April 1st?
No, because those people have up to 30 April at a certain, I don't know
So-
what time,
I believe with the
to
electronic.
put their paperwork in.
30
So
March.
I believe the
30 March?
electronic voting, we are able to, I have to confirm this with them, but if
Hey,
somebody comes in
confirm
with
it
a.
with me, I got the shit.
So for electronic ballots, those could be changed where you can add people to it. That's April 20th for the mail ballots to be sent out.
basically, we've got more control over it with electronic ballots than we do anything else.
I'm not against that, but I'm trying to
Okay.
point out, we are not giving the people enough time to
but-
campaign. And when he sends his information in, is he gonna have a list of the people running? If he is, they might not be on there.
But the,
Okay, Deb,
okay, the bylaws stipulate, let's go back to the bylaws.
So you don't have electronic.
No, I have to do the bylaws. We have to, because that's our point of reference. I know, but the
No, go ahead, Deb.
bylaws say you have vetted ones, and then you have ones that do the write-in. I mean, it's, and they're not vetted. I mean, if they get on there, fine. If not, fine. You know, I don't know.
okay.
I want a fair election, not,
All right.
I agree, I want a fair election too.
well, we're not going that route.
Well,
Well, actually,
we
we
all
are.
want a fair election.
Yep.
But we need to vote on this motion so that we can have an election, fair or not. So all those in favor of the motion, please raise your hands. Jenny?
Oh, sorry.
Okay. All those opposed?
Abstain.
Bill abstains.
Only because I don't have enough information.
So you're abstaining?
I'm abstaining, yes.
Scott, what's your vote? You're raising your hand, okay. So we have 6, 4, and 2 abstentions.
3 abstentions.
And, what?
Is Scott no or abstain?
Scott voted for.
Abstain always means
Oh, he voted
yes.
for?
Yeah.
Okay.
When you
All right, so it's 6 with 2 abstentions.
7.
The motion passes.
7 with 2.
Is it 7?
Yeah.
There's
7,
9 of us,
sorry,
yeah.
7. All right. We should have committee reports, but we're coming very close to our hard stop at 6 o'clock. So what I'm going to suggest is that we adjourn the meeting and move to an executive session. Now, for those of you that joined us late, this is a short meeting so that we can have an executive session which considers the plea from a person who we banned from the park so that they can present their position on why they shouldn't be banned. And this is one of the jobs of the board. So at this time, do I hear a motion for adjournment? Donnie, motion.
Second.
Deb, seconds. All those in discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed?
Are we gonna have an option to bring anything up later?
I didn't hear you.
She wants to know if we could bring something up later. Yeah, we could, couldn't we, after the next meeting?
At the next meeting, we
No,
can
I
talk.
mean, after this meeting, can we bring
Depends
something
upon
up?
how this executive session goes.
So, you want me to end it?
All right?
Okay.
The meeting is adjourned.
Okay, everybody, thank you for joining us. We'll be ending our live stream broadcast. Have a good day.
Okay.